Welcome to Talking Technology with VI Labs. At VI Labs, we believe technology is the single greatest enabler for people with sight loss and all disabilities. If you're looking for the latest news and conversation on tech from a more accessible perspective, you've come to the right place.
Hello and welcome to Talking Technology with VI Labs, episode number 48, our first podcast of 2024. Happy New Year to you. Hope you had a good Christmas season, enjoyed the holiday break if you got some time off work. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope Santa came, brought you something nice. But yeah, it is our first podcast of 2024, an all new year, and we have a whole year of really exciting shows, and we're starting, as we mean to go on, with an exciting show about all things Braille, and specifically Braille in everyday life. We've got a packed show coming up for you over the next little while. We'll be looking at how you can use Braille displays to read menus in restaurants. We'll be looking at how you can use Braille subtitles if you're watching shows on Netflix or on YouTube. We'll be taking a look at that with Brian later on. And we are going to be talking about some really, really cool smart braillers. The smart Perkins Brailler. We'll be chatting all about that as well later on in the show. So a packed show coming up for you over the next hour or so. So do stick around. If you want to get in touch, you can, as always, send us an email to our brand new email. I don't know whether we can even call it a brand new email because it technically launched last year, but our new email, content@vi.ie, is the email that you need. That's content@vi.ie. If you want to get in touch, and we would absolutely love to hear from you. So let's do this thing, shall we? Let's chat all things Braille. Going back many years ago, Louis Braille invented Braille as a communication system to help visually impaired people to access information. It was originally inspired by a military night writing system to help soldiers who wanted to communicate discreetly in the night and in the dark. But it evolved to become a language that I guess has a method of typing even that has really helped many blind people and visually impaired people all across the world. Absolutely. And to tell us all about the modern use cases for Braille and where we can find Braille in everyday life, I am joined by Mairead O'Mahony. Hello, Mairead. How are you?
Hi, David. How are you? Good, thanks.
Not bad. Happy New Year to you, first of all.
Happy New Year.
So, Mairead, you're a big user of Braille, obviously, and Braille is in many places that we perhaps might not expect at times.
Yeah, I mean, I use Braille, I suppose, every day as much as possible. And yes, I mean, we can find it in a lot of places. I mean, some places, for example, is, you can request a Braille bank statement from Bank of Ireland and AIB. You can do that if you want to. That's only done upon request, though. So if you're already signed up for e-statements, you have to call into your branch and look to get that requested. So that is an option, which is still there, which is very good to see.
I never even knew that.
Yeah, a lot of people may not actually be aware of it, especially since e-statements took over.
That's really cool.
So that's a good thing. And also, you can often find it as well, we'll say, on, in pharmacies, on medicine packets. So like boxes like Panadol, paracetamol, all those kind of things. In public buildings, it's on, some places it's on toilet doors and that kind of thing. So, it's usually, if it's on the door, it's above the handle, to the left, or maybe on the wall to the left of the door. So they're all there as well.
Would you say there's good consistency to these things, Mairead, or could it be better? Like you mentioned there with things like accessing, for example, public bathrooms. How consistent is the implementation of Braille in the real world?
Oh, there definitely needs to be a lot more of it. And I think in general, as as a Braille user and anyone that is a Braille user, I think it's very important that we all advocate for ourselves, even because, and educate others about what Braille is and the benefits of it, because you should have the same right to, Braille as a sighted person has to print. So I'd love to see it become standard everywhere. So I think, if there's something you would like Braille, you can, and you're not sure where to go about it, you can always speak to the Braille team or the Braille library, and they will give you advice on, maybe possible solutions on how you could get that in Braille. So actually, when I was there was a lot of events for Louis Braille World Day last Thursday. And something very interesting came up that I wasn't aware of as well, that it's in the Co-op in the UK, it's standard that on a lot of their boxed items, they automatically have Braille labels on their own branded foods.
That's fantastic,
which is really good.
It? Do you think that should be a mandatory thing, Mairead? Or do you think
I'd love
feasible?
to see it everywhere, to be honest, if possible, because look, while I know Braille labelling takes up maybe a lot of space and people are concerned, that there mightn't be enough space on the packaging for it, I think what I'd love to see is maybe if there was a Braille label, even with just the name of the product, and then maybe if beside it there was a QR code or something that you could scan to, that would give you more information about the product, like the expiry date, the cooking instructions, all that kind of thing. So I'd love to see that.
Or even those NaviLens codes and stuff like that they have on, I think they have them on a lot of Nestle products. I'm open to correction on that, but a lot of like Nestle cereals
they have,
stuff like that.
And some of the Pantene toiletries as well, they have them on those as well.
Yeah, so there is there are steps forward with accessibility, but Braille is one of those things that it certainly could be more prevalent. And even there are services out there like those accessible bank statements that you mentioned that even I, as a visually impaired person, I genuinely did not know that. And that's probably not a great thing in many respects, isn't it? It's kind of, there needs to be more awareness.
I made an inquiry there a couple of weeks ago about it because, I'm signed up myself for the e-statements. So I just contacted the customer service in both the banks just to see if the option is still available, if somebody wanted it. And that was the advice they gave, that, you'd have to do it from your branch if you're already signed up for the e-statements. So they'd have to take you off the e-statements and then you could get it in Braille if you wanted it.
Interesting. Very interesting. Mairead, what do you think the future is like for this kind of stuff? Where is it going to go? And do you think access with Braille in the real world is getting better, or are we taking strides backwards in some regards as technology has evolved? How do you think Braille in the real world is evolving?
Well, you do have a lot of, really good new Braille devices on the market all the time. There's always, new Braille technology coming on stream, like new Braille note takers and things. But I do think, a lot more can be done to push for Braille.
Fair enough. It's an interesting one, isn't it? To see how Braille is still prevalent, but it needs to go a lot further. It
definitely does. And just another point there is, I kind of see sometimes that, if you're looking for a menu, like if you approached a restaurant and asked, would it be possible to have a Braille menu? The solution kind of seems to be like, oh, but, we'll read it out to you. There's no problem. Or, you can get it online. And, that's fair enough. You can get it online and read it from your Braille display if you have one or whatever. But it would be just nice to have that, option to read it in Braille. And, while you have all these apps, I mean, you don't want speech and technology like speech devices to take over completely either. Like while you have great apps like, Be My Eyes and Seeing AI and things for reading things, that's great, and you can read it from your Braille display as well, but it's just much quicker and more efficient as well if you can just pick up something there and then and just scan over it with your hands. And plus you can jump to parts of the information that you want faster as well.
Sure. And also for people who might be deafblind or have dual sensory loss, I think it's important for them as well, because it's well and good for many people to use something like Be My AI or Seeing AI or Envision or any of those solutions, as you say. But it isn't an option for everyone. And Braille, having it readily available and in a easily accessible format, that makes a big difference for people. So if there was one thing, Mairead, like if you could bring in one rule that was like Braille has to be on all of these things, what would it be? Would it be the menus in restaurants? Like what kind of things would you like to see Braille on if you had one kind of Braille wish, if you will?
Yeah, I would definitely say menus in restaurants or supermarket items, because you know yourself, sometimes it can be very tedious if you're unpacking the shopping and you're trying to, especially if you have a lot of frozen food and you're trying to scan each one to see what it is. You know, it does take up a bit of time. While it's, you know, it's great to have the option to do it, but it does take up time. And whereas if you can quickly just glance over something with your fingers.
Yeah, it's the simple things like, is this the ham or the chicken, or is this the, you know, Weetabix, or is it the cornflakes? You know, the little
especially
bits.
tinned foods.
yeah, you know, it's there's a big difference between pineapples and whatever, you know, there can be big differences there. So, yeah, an interesting one. Mairead, thank you so much for talking to us about that. A long road to go for Braille in some regards, but it is good to see that in particular with, like, this is an area that the pharmacies have really gotten right, but it could certainly be much broader for sure. But one of the things... yeah, go for it.
Oh, yeah. No, you're okay.
No, go for it, Mairead. You're good.
Just to mention there, I suppose if people have items as well that they would like to label, and they haven't labeled them, there's multiple options that you can label them. So one of the devices you can have is called a Dymo gun, and you can get that from the NCBI shop. It's around the €50, but it'll last you a long time, so it's worth having. So it's just like you put a roll of tape into it and you have all the Braille letters and print over them, and you spin the wheel round to the letter you want and press down it. But what I like about using this device is you can also, like by pressing the space bar very hard, it cuts the label once you're done.
That's
so you're not fiddling around with the scissors trying to cut the label, and so I'd use it now. I'd have one. I'd use it sometimes for labeling CDs, or sometimes tinned food if I had a couple of ones that are the same, because it's good for that. So there are ways, and I suppose if people don't have that option, then there's you can always get, there's kind of clear labeling tape. It's like a sheet of paper, but it's it has the adhesive stuff at the back of it, and it's fairly laminated as well. So you can put that into the Perkins like you would a normal sheet of Braille paper, and you can Braille your label then. But you do have to kind of cut that off, all right, so that is a bit more time consuming, but there are options for brailing things. So
for sure. And handy to note with the Dymo gun and stuff like that. I remember years ago, and you mentioned this has a use case, but using it for CDs and stuff in the house. We had like loads of CDs with Braille labels on them, and it does make a difference, like just something as simple as what version of the Now CDs are this, because even if you're visually impaired, like you might be able to see like what type of CD it is, as in, yes, this is one of the Now That's What I Call Music, but what number is it? Little things like that.
Yeah.
Music has changed a lot from now 30 to now like 130. So yeah, there's really just simple uses for Braille labeling and stuff like that too. And you can get those from the VI shop. You can call the VI shop if you want. 1-800-911-250 will get you through to Vision Ireland, and you can order those from Vision Ireland too. They're really handy, Mairead. Do you use it? Would you find yourself using them a lot?
I would. Like another example of where that would come in very useful now is if you had, like, we'll say in the workplace, a first aid box or whatever. It could be time consuming to label everything, and the labels may not stay on sometimes, because sometimes the adhesive comes off depending on the shape of the product as well. So what you could do in that situation, rather than label absolutely everything, is just have a Braille sheet inside in the box as well, with everything that's contained in the first aid box, so that at least you'll know what is there when you're looking for it. So it is a kind of a workaround as well.
Yeah, good to know, and good to be creative with this sort of stuff. Mairead, thank you so much for telling us all about all of that. There's a lot in that, and thank you so much for telling us about it. Now, one of the things that you mentioned there was the ability to read menus. And one of the things we recorded earlier on with the one and only Mr. Brian Manning was how you can use Braille if you're out in the world to try and access maybe a menu that you've been handed in print, but you want to use your Braille display in order to read it independently. So here is Brian's demo of how you can access a menu in Braille if it's been handed to you in print.
This morning, David, I'm going to demonstrate to you how a blind or vision impaired person with the proper technology can go into any restaurant or any food takeaway venue, get the menu, and with the proper technology, as I say, read the menu independently and decide, make up their own mind what they would like to eat from the menu. Now, the technology I refer to is your typical smartphone. In my case, I'm going to use an iPhone. Now, again, I can use iPhone and with an app such as Seeing AI and using the new features of Seeing AI as well, as we'll demonstrate later. I can interrogate the menu and I can decide what I want. Of course, obviously, I can have someone that I'm with, a colleague of mine or a friend of mine or member of staff, read the menu to me. But if I want to do it independently, as I say, with the proper technology, in this case, a smartphone, I'm using an iPhone, and with a piece of Braille output technology, in my case, again, I'm going to use the Focus 40 Braille display. I mean, you can use the Focus 14, which might be advantageous to the extent that it's more portable. It's a smaller display. It fits nicer in your pocket, so you can carry it around with you. It's just that in my case here, I'm using a Focus 40 because that's the Braille display I have. But any of these Braille displays and any of these Braille note takers will work in a similar scenario. So I'm using an iPhone, the Seeing AI app, which is now available on Android phones as well. And I'm using a Focus 40 Braille display. Again, as I say, I could use the Focus 14, which is a smaller Braille display. And again, you can connect that up to using Braille back. You can connect that up to your Android phone as well. So now I have the menu in front of me here from the restaurant that I'm in. So now I'm just going to open the Seeing AI app. Now I'm just going to tell Siri to open Seeing AI for me. So open Seeing AI. So there I have it. I can hear Seeing AI open there now for me. And the voiceover has just echoed for me that Seeing AI is open. Now, the smart reader or the quick reader channel in Seeing AI is starting to read the menu for me, but I want to use the dock reader for it to work for me, the dock channel to read for me. So I'm just going to find the channels
short text,
down at the bottom right here. I'm going to flick up.
Document, right and bottom edges not visible.
So now I'm just going to, the way I use this app is I place the camera on the actual document and I lift it off, which is exactly what I'm doing now. So it's telling me now no edges visible. So I'm just going to take a picture now of
top and
the
right
document in front of me, which is the restaurant menu.
Channel, right channel.
So now I'm looking for the take picture option, which is normally up towards the top left menu of the screen.
Take picture. Right edge not visible. Take processing.
I've taken the picture. So now it's processing the actual text on the document. And the voiceover has it now echoed to me that we're ready to go. It says back button. And I can also hear the Braille display kicking in. So now the text that's on the document that voiceover has captured using the Seeing AI app is in front of me here on the menu or on the Braille display. So now I can read back button. So now I am now just going to pan down the document. I'm just going to pan down the document.
Page 1 of 1.
Using
Heading.
the square button to the right front of the Braille display. So now it's telling me page 1 of...
Add page.
Add
Edit.
page. So
button.
now I'm just coming
Error
down
loading
to
page.
the action.
Play button. Ask Seeing AI button. Share button.
It's actually
Share,
telling me
button.
that...
Share button.
It's actually telling me now that it took an error loading that page. So I'm just going to go back here. Okay, now this can happen from time to time. It's like working with
back.
any
back.
of these
Button. Back.
technologies.
Menu.
It can
button.
work. So I'm just going to try
No
it again,
edges
okay?
visible.
I'm going to take another picture now of this menu and just see if
No
we can get anything
close button.
more from it.
Browse photos.
There
Close
now.
button.
So
Close.
I'm just going to
Channel. Document. Right edge
Documents,
menu.
still on the
button.
document
Take
channel,
pic-
so-
channel. Take picture.
picture.
Button.
So I'm
Right
just going
edge
to-
not
no.
visible.
leaning over it, so I'm just going to take the picture.
Processing.
So it's processing it again.
Back button.
So now I have that clink sound telling me the back button. So I'm going to pan down here now again, just to see if I have text. I
Page
could, of
1
course,
of 1. Heading.
use 2 fingers and just flick down the screen and have VoiceOver read the menu for me. But
Add page.
again,
button.
I'm just going to
Edit button. Sophie's lunch menu. Heading level 1.
Sophie's lunch menu. So now here I have it. So it says here Sophia's lunch menu. Perfect. So I'm going to pan down here now.
Starters. Heading level 2.
I'm on the starters menu. So starters 2, which means 2 headings, 2 HD, heading level 2. So now I'm just going to see what beautiful starters
Soup of the
they
day.
have available
Soda
here
bread.
for me.
Glenillan butter. 1A.
Soup of
1F.
the day.
4, 9, 7, 95
Lovely.
chili and
Soup
page 1 of 5.
of the
Center of
day.
screen.
Sodium
CMAI.
bread. Yes, so I can't. So I don't want soda bread today. So I'm going to come down to the next option, which is Charlie's. No, I don't think I want this either. Not Charlie's. I don't like garlic.
Side
so now
of
I'm
braised
just
ham,
literally
hot
coming
chestnut
down here
crumb,
now.
Pickles.
So I have
relish.
a cider
1A.
braised
3C. 4,
ham
9,
pot, cider
13,
braised ham
13,
pot. I
50
don't want
chicken
that.
liver paste.
So now I'm just
apple
going to come
glaze,
down
brioche
to.
toast.
I
smoked
really
red
just want to
plains,
go down
bean
to.
fish and chips. Pea puree and
There we
tartar
go. I want the
sauce,
main courses
1A.
now.
Page.
So here we go now. So the Dean fish and chips. Okay, now that's something I might go for. Dean fish and chips. I'm going to come down though. See what the next option is. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to see what this is. So, nah, I don't think I like it. Well, roast of the day. No, I'm not sure what roast of the day is. I'm going to have to ask the waiter to see what roast of the day is. But we just say in a typical scenario like this, I mightn't want to go through the entire menu. I might decide, okay, I just like chicken. I want to see if there's anything here with a chicken, any chicken dishes here. So now I'm going to use the new feature of Seeing AI, which is where we will ask Seeing AI a question. Okay, so I'm just going to come down to the bottom
Share button.
right of the screen, and I hear share, so I'm going to
Ask
go left.
Seeing AI button.
Ask Seeing AI. So I'm going to ask. I'm going to find out
Ask
if
Seeing
there's a chicken
text
option
field
here.
is editing. Ask
Okay,
a
so-
question. Insertion.
Now, VoiceOver is saying ask the VoiceOver question. Now, I can input my answer. I can text it in using the Braille display on my Focus 40. Or I can, again, I can just type in my message because I have my VoiceOver control Braille settings set to show keyboards. Or I can activate the chord WH hotkey or chord on my Braille display, which opens the microphone.
Empty list.
Which I'm going to use the chord WH, okay? Because I don't want fancy typing it in, so I'm just going to do chord 156 to open the mic. Chicken.
WH.
So now hopefully I'm just going to find the send button.
Empty list. Ask Seeing a back. Back. Ask text feed. Send button.
Send.
Chicken wig.
So now we're now using, it says chicken wick. I don't know where that comes from there, but chicken anyway is in there. So hopefully now the new feature of Seeing AI using its artificial intelligence
The
is going to
document
go look in.
mentions several dishes that include chicken. These
the
are
document mentions 7 options, including chicken. So I was going to read it. Yeah, there we go. Send. So now I've asked it the question, and just to break down the whole laborious task of going through the full menu, I just wanted to check for chicken menus, for menu options, including chicken. So it's told me now, seeing it's told me that there are several chicken dishes on the menu, and it's starting to read them out for me. Now I can listen to them again with voiceover, but I'm just going to imagine the scenario that this is a very noise-intensive environment and I can't really hear what's going on around me, and I don't want people repeating themselves to me. So again, I have the technology, so I'm just going to read them out for myself independently. So here, these are the chicken options.
Ask
Several
seeing
chicken.
AI. Question. The document mentions several dishes that
So the document
include chicken.
mentions several
These are
options
1.
that mention
Chicken
chicken.
liver pate, apple
These
glaze,
are.
brioche toast, smoked red
So I'm just
pepper.
going to shut voiceover up there now because he's getting in my way. So these are chicken liver paste. Okay, do I like chicken liver paste? I don't think so. 1 second there now. So I'm going to try the next option maybe. Oh, chicken relish in the starters. Oh yeah, chicken relish in the starter section. So now I want the main course. So I'm going to go down to this next one. Oh, I love potatoes. Potato pasta. Yeah, no, that's not that nice. Okay, this one here now. Chicken. Oh, chicken sandwich. We like a chicken sandwich. Hot sauce. Chicken sandwich with hot sauce. So again, I can decide on that. And I can take my whole dining experience from there. So therefore, I can, again, just come back out of here, go right up to the top, just pan with the left square button in front of the menu. I can just keep going back. Or I can do chord B, which is chord 1, 2, which brings me back to the main menu. And I can just read the main menu again and decide, okay, do I want something perhaps with ham in it? So I can just do a search for ham, look at the ham dishes, and do it that way. So I have a number of ways of interrogating the menu. I can just read the menu wholly using voiceover with the support of the Braille display. I can just decide on a particular food item and search the menu that way and just pick from, I suppose essentially what I'm doing there is I'm editing down the menu. I'm narrowing down the menu options just to, from my own time constraints, just so that I can make the dining experience a bit more kind of to my liking and a bit more to my taste. So hopefully what we've just demonstrated is a typical example with the proper technology, which is a smartphone, a Braille display. You can go into any restaurant at any time, read the menu totally independently using Braille, and read and just go through the menu again, as I say, independently. It gives you the prices, it gives all of whatever's on the menu, the Braille display and voiceover will read out for you. So therefore, you can have a fully integrated and inclusive dining experience with the proper technology. So happy dining and bon appetit.
And that really is fantastic to see, just being able to access a menu in that easy fashion, especially when you're in something like a loud environment or something like that. It can be a massive game changer to give you access to information that you wouldn't otherwise have, because trying to listen to someone shouting a menu across the table can be difficult at the best of times. But there are many other uses for Braille, and to tell us about a really interesting use case for Braille around use of subtitles, I am joined now live by Mr. Brian Manning. Brian, how are you?
Very good again, David, and how are you?
I am brilliant.
Have a good Christmas?
Yeah, it was good. Santi come?
Oh, absolutely. Santa comes to me every day.
Every day. Brilliant. Brian, Braille and subtitles. This comes back to what we were saying about using different types of technology and bringing them all together. So in this case, VoiceOver, the iPhone, and the Focus 40. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you were using here and how you were doing things?
Well, for another very good use that I have found, and that the Braille team has researched in conjunction with Stuart, Sight and Sound, and Carol O'Mara gives great help with it as well. And examine the other fora through which you can read subtitles and use your Focus 14 or your general Braille displays. And one of the areas we found very innovative was around the area of subtitles. So, for example, watching Netflix offerings. And again, once you have the proper settings, once you have your in voiceover settings, once you have the Braille set to speech and Braille, once you have in screen recognition, once you have that set to text on, then you should be able to read subtitles once they're switched on within Netflix, we'll say, or indeed in YouTube. And I've watched several shows reading the subtitles, several entertainment shows, several comedy shows, documentaries, things like that. And I found it very, very valuable and very, very useful to be able to read the subtitles, particularly for example, in a documentary where sometimes they would switch languages. It's great to be able to read the subtitles, and while voiceover will echo the subtitles, sometimes voiceover can get in the way of dialogue. So it's great to be able to just have your Focus 40 or your Focus 14 or your Braille note taker and just read the subtitles. It's very, very useful. And we actually found it very useful within Teams meetings as well. So, for example, once you've captions turned on within Teams meetings, it's excellent because, you can actually find where the captions are and read them. So that's just another example as to where, for example, deaf-blind people can find all of these media very accessible and very useful. And it's great, to enable us, read subtitles for language translation, etc. But it's also fantastically liberational for deaf-blind people, where they can now, organize meetings with their, solicitors, with their doctors, etc. They don't need, they don't need other people to be with them. They can, arrive at all of these meetings independently and, have captions on and just read the subtitles, etc. So it's really, really good. And you can achieve all of this with the exact same equipment that we used beforehand. Your smartphone, your smart tablet, perhaps, if you don't have a smartphone, and your Braille display or your Braille note taker. It's really, really innovative. It requires a certain skill set. You have to be able to read Braille. You have to know your technology. But we can do that. And that's a service that that VI provide. And we're delighted within the Braille team to be able to make that offering.
And on that kind of skill level, you would need to be able to read Braille at quite a decent speed to be able to process this information, especially for things like fast-moving dramas and so on. Are there different types of content that this works particularly well with? You mentioned documentaries there.
Well, it does. It works well. Documentaries would be a great format because normally it's speech dialogue as opposed to dramatic dialogue. And dramatic dialogue, as can come at us quite quickly. What I would qualify this by suggesting that you would really need Grade 2 Braille, because Grade 2, which is contracted Braille in other man's speech, it just speeds up the Braille reading process. You would also need to be quite an accomplished or quite a quick Braille reader for this to work better for you. And there are certain scenarios in which, the subtitle reading won't work. But where the dialogue is reasonably presented, it does work, and it works very, very well. And I've watched comedies, I've watched documentaries, I've watched dramas, and it has worked. And I've read the subtitles, and it really has worked. It's really, I suppose, it has made the experience of watching the offering a far more inclusive and far more personal, or I suppose intimate experience. Really, it's really good.
And good to have the access to just information around things like this. Like you mentioned, things like TED Talks. And just different, even online learning videos and so on. there can be, like, if you want to get instructions for a washing machine in a YouTube video, you can, in theory, get subtitles on that. And that might be, simple, but it makes a big difference having access to that information, doesn't it?
If you can get access to the subtitles with the proper voiceover settings, there is a good chance. Now, I'm not saying exclusively that you can get the subtitles. I've come across certain scenarios where we weren't able to get access to the subtitles, but for the most part, you should be able to get the subtitles, and it is very, very, very valuable for Braille users. And a Braille user will tell you, I mean, like, my Audible is my favourite format. I prefer to listen to a book, but Braille users, people who are educated through Braille, tell me that it's a far more inclusive reading experience, reading it through Braille. So therefore, I mean, those people, I'm sure, if given the opportunity and having the proper equipment, they would far more prefer to read subtitles through Braille. So again, that it's something that's available for those people as well. For deafblind people, it's almost imperative, I would suggest, to have the skill set and to have these technologies made available to them. And having that in mind, David, if I could just mention that NCBI, we are in the process within the Braille team of setting up a loan bank of certain Braille equipment. For example, some of these Braille displays, where we're hoping to make them available on loan for certain VI service users who are interested in Braille, who would like to maybe have the use of something like a Focus 14, for example, made available in their homes or in their work for a month or two. And obviously, we will provide training in setting up the equipment and in the use of the equipment. So again, anyone that's interested in anything like that, or interested in borrowing any of the equipment, just contact the labs team, at labs.vi.ie. Or I'm sure you can call out the phone number there as well, David. So that's something to be cognizant of for anyone that would like to test any of this equipment, to test the menu reading or to test the subtitle reading, or again to just download your books and through Bookshare and read your books that way. So again, as I say, within VI and within labs, we're hoping to constantly develop our set of Braille supports for our service users. So that's something we're working very keenly on.
Absolutely. And if people do want to get more information about that, as you said, Brian, they can email labs@vi.ie, or that number that people need to get directly through to Labs about Braille or any technology support that you need is 1-800-911-110. That's 1-800-911-110. Brian, there are also...
If anyone would like to see any of this equipment, in the flesh, we'll say, and they're around the Tralee area on Friday the 12th.
Yeah.
This equipment will be available for demonstration in the library. It's there in the middle of Tralee town, and Mairead, who's part of the Braille team, will be available, and Derek, and they will showcase the equipment. We won't just have Braille equipment, we'll have all the full suite of assistive technology there, of high magnification, some of the software programs, but we will also have some of these Braille note takers and Braille displays available. So anyone in the Tralee area on the 12th of January between 11 and 2, call into the library, and we can give you a hands-on demonstration.
Absolutely. And that's this Friday, if you're listening when the podcast is published, this Friday, the 12th of January, between 11 and 2, as Brian says. They're really exciting. And Brian, Braille is really coming on massively, even within Vision Ireland. There's been a lot of advancements in the last little while. Where would you like to see Braille go next? Where do you think is next for Braille?
Well, the logical conclusion, or the logical next step, would be multiple line Braille displays. So, for example, where we can be limited in that a Focus 14 will give you 4 cells of Braille, 14 cells of Braille, which would be the equivalent of 14 letters. The Focus 40 will give you a line of Braille which will include 40 characters, which will give you, again, 40 letters of Braille. Now, if we had multi-line Braille displays, they might be bigger, but it would give us more. It would give us, access to greater amounts of Braille. So, for example, you'd have your menu in a sheet as opposed to having your menu in line, and you'd have to pan to the next line, pan to the next line. So, I think that possibly is the next logical step forward for Braille, for digital Braille. There is no doubt with that. The way forward for Braille is through digital Braille, because it miniaturizes it and makes it more accessible. Braille, if you were to tell me 40 years ago that Braille would be as portable as it is now, then I would have been amazed. So, and like that portability has come through digital Braille, through electronic Braille. If we could have the multiple line Braille, now we're beginning to get that now, where there is a machine out at the moment. Canute is the new multiple line Braille display that serves as a very good example of something that will become more available as we progress in years. But and if I could just suggest to you as well that Braille can be prohibitively expensive. I mean, traditionally, each Braille cell was worth the equivalent of well over €1,000. So essentially, Braille needs to become more affordable, and that would be very
happening
much
in the near future.
David?
Do you see that happening in the near future?
I think, well, there were one or two attempts made to make Braille more affordable in the past year or two. No, they tend to have broken down to the extent that they were available, but like we had to send some of those machines back to be reserviced and reserviced. So I think that, well, what that demonstrates to me is that these Braille producers are becoming more conscious that the price of Braille is putting people off. So if we can get multiple line Braille displays at an affordable price, I think that would be a very good, positive and constructive way forward.
Brian, thank you so much for that. On that note, we'll leave it, but thank you so much. I'll just remind people that that event in the library is taking place this Friday. That's January the 12th, 2024, in the library there in Tralee between 11 and 2. So
and that's the library in Mairead. I was trying to think of the name of it. The Mairead Library.
Mairead Library.
In Tralee.
Brilliant.
Tralee.
Fantastic. So go pay the team a visit. They'll be happy to show you all of the cool bits of Braille equipment and assistive technologies in general. It will be great to have a few people there. So do go pay them a visit if you're in the Tralee area. Brian, thank you so much for joining us on that. With now, we'll hand over to JP for Tech News.
This is Talking Technology News.
With your latest Talking Technology news, I'm JP Corcoran. Apple are set to launch their new virtual reality headset called Vision Pro next month, in what will be the company's first major new product since the Apple Watch. With the launch of the Vision Pro, Apple will also be the first company to bring a mainstream screen reader to a VR headset, with VoiceOver having been redesigned for its new use case in the spatial world. Apple outlined Vision Pro's accessibility features front and center in the press release announcing the launch, saying, "As with all Apple products, powerful accessibility features have been built right into Vision OS. Key accessibility features like VoiceOver, Zoom, switch control, guided access, and more have been reimagined for spatial computing. Users can interact with Apple Vision Pro entirely with their eyes, hands, or voice, or any combination that works best for them. They can select a preferred input method such as their eyes, finger, or wrist using pointer control. Pause on an element of Vision OS for a few seconds to stimulate a tap using dwell control, or simply use voice commands for activities across Vision Pro using voice control. If input from both eyes is not an option, Vision OS also allows eye tracking with one dominant eye." Apple will launch Vision Pro in the USA on the 2nd of February, but hopefully it will be available in Irish markets soon. In other news, what happens when you have two people in control? One has to become the co-pilot, of course. After nearly 30 years, Microsoft are adding a new key to their keyboards in the form of the AI Copilot key. The key will replace the right control key or the menu key on most devices and will, as the name suggests, launch Microsoft's new AI-powered Copilot feature introduced in recent Windows 11 updates. The last big update came in the form of the Windows key, which was introduced ahead of the release of Windows 95 all the way back in 1994. Will the Copilot key be as big as the legends such as Shift, Alt and Backspace? Who knows, but Microsoft are clearly betting big on the AI future. Check out Tech on Tap this Friday for more on how the Copilot key might impact accessibility. Finally, for now, Be My Eyes have introduced a new groups feature. Instead of calling a random volunteer with the service, you now have the option to call someone from a preset group of friends or family. When you make the call, whoever's free to take it can accept the call and assist you. This has some good benefits, as you might feel more comfortable working through some tasks with family or friends. And there may be some cases where knowing you might make it easier to assist you. A simple question like, where am I in relation to my house, might be easier if the person knows where you live, as an example. It's a cool update, and one that will hopefully be beneficial to blind people in 2024. That's it for now, but you can keep up to date with all the news by subscribing to our Tech on Tap newsletter. Visit vi.ie for more details. With that, it's back to you, David.
Thanks, JP. Are you excited for the Vision Pro?
Yeah, I'm really excited, but I think it sounds like it's really impressive.
Yeah.
I think what Apple have done, David.
Too.
Sorry, go ahead, David. Sorry.
Good to see the accessibility features baked in from launch too.
That's what stands out to me. I know there's a lot of talk about headsets, AR headsets, VR headsets, and the likes of Meta. I think what separates this one, though, is, well, not just the speed of the device. I believe it's going to be a lot faster. It's featuring, I think it's an R1 chip, but I think it's going to be the accessibility which is baked in, as you pointed out. And when you have the likes of VoiceOver and Zoom available for blind and low vision users, I think it could be a game changer in the VR and AR headset market. I think big drawback might be the cost, David. It's quite expensive, isn't it? But
it is. So it's retailing in the US starting at $3,500. So it's a very expensive bit of kit for sure. It's almost, in some regards, it's in line with some assistive technologies. Like if this could replace something like, let's say, Envision glasses, or maybe this was an accessibility game changer for you in some way, shape or form, then it might be able to justify that cost in some way, because like I've been trying out a device here recently called the Vision Buddy, and the Vision Buddy is basically, it's a virtual reality headset that it's got cameras on the front of it, but you can zoom up. So you wear it over your face effectively, and you can zoom into items that are further away. So you could be standing at a bus stop, as an example, or you could be standing further away from a board with information on it, or a sign or anything like that, and you can zoom in to see it closer up, as if you're just standing directly in front of it. If you could integrate something like that into Vision Pro, like some form of magnifier app or something into it, that's something I think could be really exciting, but the cost is very scary at the moment.
It is. What about the availability of the Vision OS? Like, is there an opportunity for app developers to come on board and say, you know what, let's see if there's an opportunity to create some apps that might benefit someone who is blind or is vision impaired?
So interestingly,
App Store.
The App Store is going to be built into Vision OS, and one of the really cool things is Apple say in their statement announcing the launch that over 1 million apps from iPhone will automatically work on Vision OS. So I'm curious as to what that means, but could we be looking at something like, a hands-free Be My AI or something like that? I don't know. It's impossible to know what we're really looking at this point, but I'm really excited to hopefully at some stage get to play with it, because I think there's going to be some really, really cool innovations here, really. But,
absolutely. We're going to have to get one in for testing, David, aren't we?
Yeah, are you not? We'll fly to the US, JP, as a team. Will VI Labs take on America? We'll have to do that, and
all over that.
Absolutely, let's do it. I hope the bosses are listening. Kyron, get on that. Get that budget
I'll
sorted.
go to read the news for you. That's no problem.
Thanks, Brian.
I think you should join us, Brian.
Absolutely.
I'll read the menus, no problem.
Brilliant. Exciting stuff. And also there, the Be My Eyes groups. How do you think that will be beneficial compared to, like, because traditionally, like, there's always been the option of just FaceTiming someone, but this lets you almost group FaceTime and see whoever's free, so you're not bothering people as much.
I think it's a fantastic tool with Be My Eyes, and I have to say credit to them. I know we've had Hans Jorgen on the show a number of times, who's co-founder of Be My Eyes, and that they've introduced extra features like specialized help, with the Be My AI tool, of course, that came out in the last number of months, which is fantastic. And now to be able to build like your own custom network, it's fantastic as well. I think from the point of view of having a bit more privacy and I suppose certain situations, like I've worked with a number of service users who have either had the Be My Eyes app installed, or maybe they're using it and they're saying, you know what, I'd love to have a bit more privacy around this. They're reluctant to use it because I don't want to get connected to an absolute stranger halfway across the world. And I think, for instance, like what we talk about in the news updates today about, like, where am I, for locations like close to your home, maybe reading some personal documents like, your bank statements, medical prescriptions. I think people will be much more comfortable talking to, a close family member, a friend, versus a total stranger. Looking into some of the details then, I think the current option is that you can add up to 20 people to join your Be My Eyes group, and you can create up to 5 Be My Eyes groups. So it's quite good. A great feature from Be My Eyes.
Absolutely, very interesting, and it's incredible to see the pace that they have moved at in the last 6 months alone. Like, I think, was it August? I think Be My AI came out publicly. That's insane how fast they're moving over there.
It really is. Credit to them.
I was using this. I was training people with FaceTime to use up, the original Be My Eyes facilities. Whereas now it's come on leaps and bounds, and now it's evolved so much, Be My Eyes, that it's worth everyone learning it now, really,
Absolutely, and I found similar, a really, really impressive bit of kit at this point for sure. JP, thank you so much for jumping in on news. Appreciate it very much. And with that, if you do have news for us, you can send us an email if you'd like to make us aware of some news to content@vi.ie. That's content@vi.ie. Do share the news because we'd love to hear all about it. But now it is Quick Picks time.
It's time for VI Labs Quick Picks.
And joining us for Quick Picks once again, we are joined by the legendary Mairead O'Mahony. Hello again, Mairead.
Hi, David. How are you?
Not bad at all. Mairead, you've been trying out a really cool piece of kit, the Smart Perkins Brailler. Firstly, like, I remember using the Perkins Brailler in school. It was a big, I think it's fair to call it a bulky and noisy bit of kit. But how does the Smart Perkins Brailler compare?
Okay, well, it is a little bit lighter than the traditional Smart Perkins.
That wouldn't
to carry
be hard.
around, and you don't end up with a load of bruises either when you're trying to carry it.
Fair enough.
Because of the way it is. It's we'll say the design of it, at the very bottom of it, you've got the carry handle. So it's like, then it's very kind of flat. So it's not, it's more like you kind of hold it tilted away from you. You kind of hold it upwards, like, tilted away from you. So that's how you hold that. And then we'll say just above the handle, you've got your normal Perkins style keys as usual. So you have your 6 Braille dots. You've 3 dots each at the left and right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you have your space bar in the middle. Then you have the line return key on the left, at the very far left, which is a kind of It's different from your traditional Braille one, and then you have the backspace at the far right. So I suppose how this differs really is just above the keys, then above the Braille keys, you have a smart module. And this is basically a screen that has, it's a 4-inch screen. So, and you have on that, again, you have at the very left of it, you have 4 buttons. And they all have different they're small little buttons, and they all have different. So like we'll say the first button is to turn on or off the screen, which is very good if you want to save battery. And the second one then is for its different screen display modes. I haven't really figured out those. And then they all have different kind of raised dots on them as well, which you can identify them easily. So the first one it's just a smooth button with no dot. The second one has a little dot on it. And then the next button down, the third one down, is for switching between contracted and uncontracted Braille. And that has 2 dots on it. And then the fourth one down has 3 raised dots on it. And it kind of feels a little bit like an L, I suppose, in Braille. And that's for, you can change the speech. So you can change things like if you wanted to speak letter, if you want to speak letter, words, or by line, or if you wanted to speak letters and words or everything. So you've got those options on it. Then I suppose at the very, at the right, then you have, at the right of the screen, you've got a menu button. So again, you can, what is handy about this is you can type on it without paper in it even, because you can save it to either the flash disk or a USB stick, which I've been doing. So that is handy about it. On the very right of the screen, then you have your menu button. So that gives you options like users. You can add different users. You can change settings such as the language. You can change the voice. It's a cappella voices it uses. Unfortunately, you can't change the voice rate, which is a pity. So it speaks very slowly for me anyway.
That seems like you would have a basic feature that you would expect in a product like this that you could
definitely,
adjust the speed,
yeah. So it does. That is a pity, because when I'm typing there, sometimes I actually just turn off the speech, because you can switch the speech off as well with the 4th button when you can toggle the word character and all that. So I'd often turn off the speech and just type away, because sometimes you could have 6 letters typed and it's only after calling out the first one that you've typed. So it kind of toggles behind. So then you have at the very right, you got menu buttons again. So they're like for going through the menus, and you have in the very middle, then you have a select button. So I suppose just to give a bit about it, what is very good about it is there's, I suppose for anyone where this does come in very useful is it does, as I say, have a 4-inch screen on it. So it's very useful for somebody starting out learning Braille, maybe if they're in a classroom, because, the teacher can see exactly what they're typing. And then you have to, if you want to, you can erase text, like you can erase a letter if you want to. There is an option on it that you just hold down and it erases the letter. But when it comes to editing documents and things, unfortunately, you can't really do that with this. You have to save it onto a USB stick and edit it from your computer. So I suppose it is good as well if the teacher wanted to give a child something on a USB key, and then they can, put it into this and they can read from it. Now, unfortunately as well, I suppose I would have loved a little, on the top of the screen, I would have loved to have a small Braille display, especially for the price of it. It is over 2,000.
Yeah.
Because to be nice to be able to read as you're typing rather than listen to the speech on it. Or even to read your document, it would be nice. But I suppose that is a bit of a disappointment. But
do you see a use case for it, like in the sense of, like you mentioned that it's brilliant for those who are learning Braille, but as someone becomes more of an advanced Braille user, does it have many benefits for them?
Really, I wouldn't see the benefit if you're a more advanced user, because like if you had a Braille, I'd kind of be recommending a Braille note taker, because if you had, it's a lot more portable, and it's a lot more, you can do a lot more with it. I mean, you can't, use the internet or email or anything on this. It's just, standalone Braille, really. But I suppose there is, for anyone learning it as well, there is a built-in app into it that, lets you practice various words and exercises and sentences. So it gets you to type it, and then it tells you if you're correct or not, and it gives you a score at the end. So that's useful if someone is learning it. But for somebody, I think, who is more advanced in Braille, I think a Braille note taker would. Yeah, I personally wouldn't see the use, but...
Were you disappointed given the price?
Sorry?
Were you disappointed given the price?
I was, because I suppose like Braille has moved on a lot as well. It's kind of like, it's not much, like the main difference I think really from your standard Perkins is the screen on it for, we'll say, a sighted person to work with a student or something. And
so
that you can connect
user,
USB
there's
to it.
not much of a difference then.
Not much of a difference.
Yeah.
You can connect a USB to it. You can set up 30 different users on it, which I have done. Well, I've set up a few different just to try them out and go into the different user accounts, because you can, with the different user accounts, then you can set different settings. So if somebody likes a different, brightness setting on the screen, or if somebody likes a different voice, you can change those settings. One good thing that I like about it, right, though, is if you hold down the menu button for about 6 seconds, it tells you the battery status, which user is signed into it, and it tells you like whether you're in contracted or uncontracted Braille and what speech setting you have it set to. So if it's lines and letters, or if it's words and letters, or if it's everything. So.
But really, it's falling short kind of say, a Braille note taker in that regard, especially with a €3,000 price tag-ish.
I think so, yeah, because even when you're saving onto a USB, it can only be saved as a TXT file.
Oh, wow. Not even Word?
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So,
that's kind of depressing in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, just a bit.
Wow, that's fascinating. You'd wonder why they didn't even put have some decently featured Android operating system on the thing. It sounds like that would in theory be plausible, but that's really interesting, isn't it? It doesn't have Wi-Fi or anything?
No Wi-Fi.
Wow. That's really interesting. Mairead, thank you for telling us about it. It's good to know it's out there, but... Yeah, wow! It doesn't have Wi-Fi. You can only save TXT files. That's it's a tough sell, isn't it? And you've got to I do genuinely. I see a benefit for it in circumstances like schools where you might, for whatever reason, you might want a device to be that locked down. But for an average user, that's going to be a very, very tough sell, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. And I think at the beginning as well, I suppose one thing I would love to have seen with that as well, especially for a Braille device, again, it doesn't come with much of a Braille manual. There's only about 4 pages that it comes with. And they're basically, just how to insert the battery and just a little bit about the layout of the machine. The rest then, when you set up the device at first, you're guided to a kind of a welcome screen with an audio tutorial guide on it, which is, because it's much easier to kind of, read through something in a hard copy and jump to whatever section you want rather than listen to it, because especially if you pause the tutorial and you go out and you go into something else, like creating a document or something, it's very hard to get back to that tutorial again, and you have to kind of start back at the beginning of it again. So, so it'll only kind of, when you pause it, it'll only play again once you kind of haven't went into something else. or powered off the machine.
Interesting. Mairead, quickly, battery life and how do you charge it and stuff like that?
Oh yeah. So it comes with just a standard charging plug. So at the very back of it you have it's kind of like an older style charging plug. It's a different kind of a connection. It's at the very back of the far left of it. So the battery, I suppose, you can check the battery status in it as well as you go along, which is good. And it kind of goes in increments of like 25%. So first it's 100, then it's 75, 50, 25, and then 0. So it does kind of warn you when the battery is getting very low, right? Okay. You are meant to get about 5 hours battery life out of it. I've only kind of been getting about maybe 4, if even. But yeah, at least you can check the battery life in it.
An interesting kind of case, isn't it? It's one of these ones. It sounds like it's going to be a hard one to really recommend outside of those kind of school environments where you're really looking for something that locked down. And maybe that is the target market, but it's interesting to see, isn't it?
To me, it's just a little bit more of an updated version of the older Perkins, really. It's not much of an update, it's not much of an upgrade in it. I suppose, look, it is handy, I suppose, that you can set up different users if, we'll say...
Yeah, that is good.
You're teaching a couple of people in a school or whatever, and they can set their own preferences. But, and you can put a USB into it. But the fact that it has to be a text file, then that it saves as by default, and there is no way of changing that. I suppose another thing as well is when you're saving a file, one thing I noticed is once you're starting to create a document, you really need to start the beginning of the document with something relevant. So maybe like pizza menu for Domino's, put that on the first line, and then it'll automatically like save it as pizza menu for Domino's or something, because it takes the first 28 characters of what you typed as the file name, and you can't overtype that.
Mairead, don't tell me you can't rename it.
No, I think there is a way, all right, if you insert a piece of paper or something like that, but it just seemed a bit complex, and then you have to take out the piece of paper again. But it didn't seem very logical.
Yeah, but that is... yeah. Do you think, and maybe I'm being a bit too harsh here, but do you think it justifies its name, the Smart Perkins Brailler?
No.
Fair enough. On that note, Mairead,
I suppose, like, especially, I suppose I really did expect a little bit of a display at the top of the screen as well as print. I was really expecting that as well when it was a Smart Perkins.
Yeah.
Now I suppose
I love my old Perkins Brailler. Love it.
The good old one, traditional one?
The good old traditional Perkins Brailler, nothing like it.
Fair
it's
enough.
Like a signature to a misspent shoot.
Yeah. And you can't send these. I wonder, can you send these new fancy ones to prison when they get broken? Who knows? Mairead, thank you so much for telling us all about the Smart Perkins Brailler. A really interesting product. It probably definitely does have a market in like schools and stuff like that when they're looking for something that's really locked down. But for an average user, well, unless you're a fan of TXT files and TXT files alone, maybe do look at another option out there. There are loads of different Braille displays and Braille note takers out there. So yeah, really interesting bit of kit, but maybe not for everyone. That is it for this episode of Talking Technology. We will be back in 2 weeks' time with another exciting round of all sorts of technology conversation. If you do want to get in touch with us in the meantime, of course, you can email us content@vi.ie. That's content@vi.ie. And if you need technical support, you can email the labs team at labs@vi.ie or give them a call 1-800-911-110. That's 1-800-911-110. For now, that is us. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe on all the podcast apps if you enjoyed the show. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for another episode of Talking Technology with VI Labs.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Technology podcast with VI Labs. If you'd like to support our show, please visit vi.ie/donate. Talking Technology is proudly sponsored by IA Labs, the market leader in digital accessibility services. IA Labs, digital inclusion, your legal obligation.